Hey, doggy people. This is the first time I've watched this Caesar guy. Man, I was laughing my ass off. I like this guy. I don't even know him. Again, I mean, I've heard of this guy and I might have seen quick commercials or clips on this guy, but I've never actually watched him or know nothing about him. So save the hate mail if you love him and you think he's perfect. And you know, hey, I'm just gonna give my opinion and from my experience. Like I said, I like the guy. I wouldn't do what he's doing the way he's doing it, but that's okay. There's more than one ways to train a dog or a horse or anything else. I'm just gonna give you my opinion, and I know this guy has a huge following, and he's looked at as the um, darn. I just found some treats in my pocket. I was gonna give the horses. I forgot I had them in there. Surprised Buddy didn't molest me trying to get those. Anyway, let's take a look at this. Oh man, this is great. All right, here we go.
See, that's unsure, that's not submission. Okay, good girl.
Okay, I'm assuming, and again, yeah, if you assume make an ass out of you and me, I get it. But just from my take on this, and I watched the video, so I know a little bit that it appears like that. But when I first saw this, I'm like, okay, evidently he's trying to show dominance. He's trying to be taller than the dog, showing his lack of fear, showing his control, his confidence, and he's trying to stop the dog from eating until he tells him. So I'm like, okay, I get that. But as I watched the whole video, I'm pretty sure this is his first time with this dog. Maybe it isn't. Maybe he does multiple times. Like I said, I've never watched a guy. I don't know. But so I get that you don't want to show fear from a dog and you want to be able to, what I call, invade their space or show dominance over them by not basically requesting to be in their area or not being afraid to be in their area and showing, you know what, I can go where I want because I'm big dog here, okay? So I get this, but, well, let's see here. Okay. Me personally, I'm not putting my crotch next to a dog that I'm in training. Okay, that's just me. You can call me a wimpy or I'm scared to protect my twig and berries, whatever you want. But I'm just not exposing my boys to a dog's chops next to his food. So he's doing this. Am I saying he's wrong? Am I saying I'm smarter than him? Don't come here and try to make this about I'm trying to crack on this guy or say he's no good. Look, there's different professionals in the field that do things different ways, and people can evaluate them. And I'm not making it personal. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, mean guy, stupid guy. I'm just saying I wouldn't do this. And, at the beginning it says don't do this unless you're a professional or you get professional, guidance. Well, I'm assuming this guy's a professional. He's on TV, and I'm pretty sure he probably gets paid for everything he does. And that's really the only definition of a professional is you get paid for doing something. I mean, it's supposed to be standards and all that, but there's a lot of professional horse trainers. They got no standards and no ethics, and they call themselves professional because some dummy's willing to pay them. So, the term professional doesn't mean that much to me, but if you've watched my other channels, then you kind of know how I am. I call like I see it, and I usually end up pissing off more people than I end up helping. But, hey, it's my opinion. You don't like it, feel free to leave. So exposing your crotch when you're trying to intimidate or show a dog, I would have done this on a side. So if he bit me, he would have bit my arm or my leg. I'm not sure I would have done it this way. If I've got a dog that's food protective, and that's what I call this, a dog that's food aggressive, that wants to show dominance over the food, and when they eat, they really just kind of lose touch with reality, and I kind of think that's what this dog does. Just walking up and taking the dog's food, you're going to get a response. I mean, you already know the dog's aggressive. You already know the dog's food protective. So to reinforce this, you're going to go. It reminds me when I had a tweaked nerve in my back and it was hurting. And I went to a chiropractor, and she was like, yeah, I know what's wrong. I don't need to make it hurt. And I told her I went to a massage therapist, and she pressed right on this one area, and it hurt like crap. And I'm like, that's the problem. And I showed her where she pressed, and she goes, yeah, I know what she's pressing on, this nerve and all this other stuff. But she goes, I don't need to press on it and give you pain to show you that I know what it is. And the massage therapist was like, it's right there. And I went, oh, God, I screamed. Yeah, it's it. So just because a dog is showing, he's going to be aggressive, I don't need to make the dog attack me in order to show that it's aggressive. I already know that. So is this technique wrong or bad? No, it's just different. So I would want to move this food away from him. I would probably start at a distance, maybe reach out with a stick if he wants to bite a stick, and I would just move his food around, and I would pull his food. Or I would move in and intimidate him and make him move off his food. But when you reach down to food, you're really exposing your hand to get bit, and that's exactly what happens. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to predict what's going on here. Again, I don't know this guy. Maybe his technique is if I stare at him and talk to him mentally, he won't attack me. I don't know. But just looking at this one video, again, this is a 2-minute video that I looked at for, I watched it once, and now I'm doing a video on it. So this is just my take on it, and it's my raw take, and I don't know all the background. So, take it with a grain of salt. Don't come here to argue, or I'll just block you. I'm not, believe me, I've already learned from other channels. I'm not here to argue or change somebody's opinion. I'm here to give my opinion. You either like it or you don't, and if you don't, feel free to leave. Don't let the door hit you in the butt as you leave. All right, so let's watch this guy here. Okay, so I like that the guy wasn't afraid to punch the dog. A dog is an aggressive animal. I don't like people that's punching horses, but if a horse is attacking you, I think you need to defend yourself, and you absolutely need to get more aggressive than that horse because the horse will hurt you. And if a dog attacks you, you need to get more aggressive than a dog. A dog will hurt you. Punching him in the throat there is probably a good distractor. Teaching self-defense, etc. for humans, we call those in police work distracting blows. If you hit somebody in the jaw or in the neck, it will sometimes stun them. It will sometimes shock their artery, block the blood, and maybe cause a little, star. They'll see stars. If you punch them enough times in the neck and stop enough blood flow, they'll pass out, just like a carotid restraint or a chokehold. If you squeeze those carotid arteries, it restricts blood to the brain. So kind of throat punching him, and there's a term for guys that call throat punching, is a technique to stun and to say, hey, what's going on? So, look, I've dealt with many, many, many aggressive dogs in my day, and I've been bit many, many times. I don't know how many times this guy's been bit, but believe me, I've been bit. I've got to be in the top 10% of people, if not top 1% of people that's been bit by dogs the most times. Again, I trained dogs for many years, so I had dogs biting me, and sometimes they would come off the wrap. So getting bit isn't like the end of the world to me because it's been done so many times, I kind of figure out, I know what's going to happen. But it's still a dangerous thing. A dog could get an artery. A dog could not let go. A dog can get you down if you fall or slip. You get bloody, and then if he gets to your neck, he could hurt you. Will a dog try to get you in the neck? I'm not saying he will. So this guy Cesar is I think, keeping a good stance. He's on solid ground. He's kind of crouching and really forcing this dog to be aggressive. The throat punch was a good thing, but sometimes when I correct, I like to move on. It appears here that after he corrected, he wants to dominate, force, and continue his dominating act to get the dog to be submissive. Is that okay? Sure, it's okay. You can do what you want. It's your dog, it's your horse, your animal. You can do whatever you want. And if you pay somebody, they're going to do what they want. But I don't know. This video has a lot of conflicting things for me. Let's finish here. Again, the throat punch, I don't have a problem with it. You'll see him very quickly here. He draws back as soon as the dog shows aggressive. Now, the dog didn't bite him, and the dog didn't attack him. The dog took a very wide stance. He lowered his body in what I call a protective mode. This dog got very protective and said, hey, this is mine. You better back off. He warned him, And he could have not hit him. And some people will say he shouldn't have hit him. He's the aggressor. There's no point in abusing a dog. Look, I'm a big believer. A dog don't get aggressive with me. If you're my dog, you get aggressive, we're going to fight. And it's my job to make you lose. So he gave him a good throat punch, went back in, right in the jaw there, said, hey, don't punch me. Didn't show fear, tried to make the dog back up and retreat. And the dog kind of gave a little bit. He's like, wow, man, I've probably never been punched before. But, man, this dog went from cute little lab to snarling dog pretty quick, and he was just punched. So, I mean, would somebody expect that if you punch a dog once, he will just automatically become a nice, calm dog and love you forever? I mean, there has to be a cause and effect when you're training dogs. Obviously, a dog's going to fight you when you punch him, but that's okay. I mean, I don't want a dog growling at me. I would have probably had a dog on the leash when he became protective. I would have tied what I call tying a knot in his butt, give him a good stern correction, yank, pick his feet off the ground, make him know, you know what, if you growl at me, you're going to expect an immediate negative reinforcement. And I'll get into negative reinforcement. I just did one on continuous reward, which is a positive reinforcement. When a dog does something you want, you give him a reward. Negative reinforcement is when a dog does something you doesn't want him to do, you give him negative reinforcement. Some people will call it punishment. Some people don't like that training. I'm not a big fan of that training, but I think it's necessary, especially when you're dealing with aggressive dogs. So he punches him and then immediately goes in and crowd him. Now, that dog gave submissiveness and walked away. Cesar moved in and did not stop, and the dog came back and said, hey, I gave you a little way. Now, someone else is going to say, and maybe Cesar would say, hey, I don't want him to show any aggressive. I want him to be complete submissive. Until he's completely submissive, I'm not going to stop my aggressive dominant stance. Okay, I mean, that's one way. Will it work? I mean, it'll work with some dogs. May not work with all dogs. This dog, I mean, he's standing his ground. Okay, this guy kills me, man. I've never seen this guy before. You go, Cesar. I don't know who you are, but it's like I can't call him a pink panty wussy because he's not backing down from the dog. So I like him because he's not backing down. Although I'm not saying this is the best. And again, remember, outcome of an incident always dictates. If a guy runs into a burning building and saves somebody, he's a hero. If a guy runs into a burning building and ends up dying, they're like, he's stupid. He shouldn't have went in there. He should have waited for backup. He should have waited till he had a control. He should have waited till he had oxygen. There'll be 1,000 reasons on why he shouldn't went in there because he died. But if he runs in there and saves somebody, all that'll go away and he's a hero. So a lot of people will see this and go, Cesar got bit. He's a dummy. And if this worked, he would be brilliant. Well, I mean, sometimes that applies. Sometimes it doesn't. Okay. There's no absolutes in life, I don't think, and there's not a lot of absolutes other than taxes and the government, but there's not a whole bunch of absolutes when you're training with animals that this will always work with every animal 100% of the time. So he's standing his ground, he's trying to back the dog down, and the dog actually does show some submissiveness. I just kind of laugh at this. I don't know why. I've never had a stare down with a dog like that. Not saying that it's wrong or incorrect. I'm just saying I've never done it. So now, most people would see this and go, wow, I see a change in the dog. The dog is showing submissive. His ears aren't up. His hair on his back of the neck standing. He's not showing his teeth. And he has a submissive look. Wow, this must really work. I don't know if this would be my first go-to to training, but wow, this guy's a dog whisperer. Look at him. He changed his dog completely and made him submissive just by this look and not backing down. I think I'll go try that. Well, you're going to get bit. Okay? Because, look, when somebody isn't afraid to get bit, and obviously he's not afraid to get bit, they will do things that a normal person won't do. I've handled a lot of dogs from a lot of people that said their dog was going to bite me and they're really aggressive, and they're so scared of the dog. As soon as I took the leash from the dog was fine, never tried to bite me. And they were like shocked and, oh my God, this guy's a dog whisperer. Well, not really. I mean, it's just because I had been bit so many times I wasn't afraid to get bit. I handled the dog like I wasn't afraid to get bit. I didn't let him kind of intimidate me. I wasn't overly careful around the dog. Some people may call it foolishness. Maybe that's why I got bit so much, but I just handle it like, you know what, if he bites me, we'll deal with it, but let's just go on and do what we need to do. So Cesar is handling this dog with confidence, not being afraid to get bit, which is why this dog is reacting that way. If someone else tries this who is afraid to get bit, who is nervous, then they're going to have problems, and it's not going to work the same way. That's why you can't sometimes just watch somebody and do it. So remember the old Confucius saying, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. But if I do, I understand. And that's really critical in a lot of trainings. A lot of people will hear somebody say something, they'll watch a video, and they think they understand, but they don't. And until you do it multiple times and have failures and learn from those failures and then develop a technique and things that work for you, then you understand. So this guy understands. His success will highly depend on his experiences and the way he does things, and he's learned from experience what not to do. Me, learning from experience, I'm not putting my hands by a dog face that's aggressive. I'm not exposing my crotch area, and I'm not kneeling down with a dog. That's just me. And this kind of proves the point why I don't do this.
You have to give him a moment because the brain got stuck this way.
Yeah.
That's very critical, and that's the same way I talk in horses. You have to pause training and give, like after I do a little training sometime, I'll tie my horse up, and I call it the post of knowledge or the tree of knowledge if I tie him to a tree, and it's giving the horse time to process what he learned. It gives him time to move out of any fight, fear, frustration, confusion, and just kind of think and pause a minute about what happened. Now, some people in the horse world say that happens when a horse licks his lips. A horse licks his lips when you release pressure, and that's true. Well, what Cesar just said there is you have to give him time, and I agree. Once you give a lesson, you have to give it a little bit of time to absorb and the dog to figure out what's going on. You can't just keep piling on and going, learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this. Okay, training's done, I'll leave. And you never gave the dog a chance to grasp and understand it. Kids kind of do the same philosophy. You send them to school, they're pounded for 45 minutes from a teacher, multiplication, then they go to another class. And they don't just take math all day, 8 hours a day. They'll take math for a little while, then they'll take science for a little while. Then they've learned over time that you can process it better. Then when you go home, under non-stressful conditions, you get homework. And you do your things in your own time, in your own environment, without stress, and you learn and absorb more. Well, when you're training other animals, because humans are animals, dogs, horses, etc., you need to understand you got to give that kind of release and take away all the pressures and stress and forcing training down an animal's throat and say, let him absorb this for a second. And that's what Cesar said when he said it there. He said it in a different way. But I agree with what he said, and I understand what he says.
So just stay there.
She didn't do that to you earlier?
No, not like that.
Right.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, this is the first time I seen this
seen it,
behavior. Yeah. So you see, just a relaxation is.
Okay, so Cesar is kind of talking and believes that this dog is trained and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. I'm trying to make him look stupid. Just from this video, his relaxed state, he's not aggressive. The dog's looking away. He's looking away. He's carrying on a conversation. His focus isn't 100% on his dog. So both parties are relaxing, and you can see that. Dog's like, okay, he's not fighting with me. I'm not going to fight him. Cesar's like, hey, the dog's not trying to bite me. I'm not going to try to dominate him. I'm not going to stare at him. So you see both parties reacting, and that's a cause and effect with any training. And people sometimes miss that, or they misinterpret it as training is taken process. I won. I'm great, the dog has learned. And that's not necessarily true. I mean, the dog learned, but how is this a short-term memory or is this long-term memory? It's very complex, to get a dog to where you can say my dog is trained. I've had dogs that were trained and you give them a bad handler and they will undo that training. A dog's competence runs up and down a leash. A horse's competence runs up and down the reins. You get somebody yanking on a horse's face with reins, it will totally ruin a good horse. You get somebody on the end of the leash who's an idiot, it will totally ruin a good dog.
It's an understanding.
Aha. What happened? So Cesar thought, hey, I dominated him. He's submissive. I can reach up and pet him. Again, I go back to that confidence. He's been bit a few times. He's not afraid. He went in there and touched the dog. The dog said, hey, don't freaking touch me. I didn't tell you. Just because you backed me down, I'm not saying you're top dog. So the dog pushed back. The dog fought back and said, hey, just because you throat punched me once, just because I let you sit next to me and crowd me, doesn't mean that I respect you as my owner or my trainer or my alpha dog or however you want to explain it. That doesn't happen in one incident. And believe me, I'll tell some crazy dog stories where my dog has chewed me up like 6 times, and he just would not submit. And we had some big fights. Now, this normally doesn't happen here. When a dog, you notice the dog kind of bit before. I'm pretty surprised at this dog, and I wouldn't expect this either. So I totally see Cesar's kind of like shock here. But you notice Cesar, what he doesn't do here is he doesn't pull away and fight. And you know what? I'll go back into that one on dog bites. I'm getting in 20 minutes here. So the dog bites him. He's kind of shocked. And he gets his hand away. And notice he did kick him. He tried to distract him again. In police work, we'll call that a distracting blow. I'm going to kick you. I want you to notice this guy back here not reacting. This guy, I don't know if he's a film crew, if he's taking whatever. This guy is not trying to help. He's not getting involved. This is critical in all training, and that's why, my horse channel, I talk about barn witches just coming in, and, you try to trade a load of horse, and you'll have 50 people running out of the ocean and out of the woods and dropping from the sky to help you trade a load and to tell you how you have to do it this one way in order to get your horse in a trailer. And that is the most inappropriate and wrong thing to do when someone's working with an animal. This guy absolutely does not do anything. He does not interfere. He doesn't move. He doesn't act scared. He doesn't run. He doesn't scream. He doesn't react. Very critical for people to learn. Notice him moving away calmly and saying, I'm going to give some distance and space. Distance is your friend. I teach that in tactics on my cop channel. You always want distance because that gives you reaction time. That gives you time to put barriers between you and your threat. This dog is a threat right now. And again, as a threat, I'm not walking in with my boys exposed. Call me a chicken, but I'm just not doing that. I may walk in sideways. I've been bitten a hip before. I've been bitten a leg before. I'm not risking my boys. Sorry. So, Cesar immediately gets bit. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't back down. And he doesn't end the training session on a negative bite. This is critical when you're training dogs. You don't want to end on a negative. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to. If you need stitches or you need to terminate, you may have to end on a negative. If a dog forces me to end on a negative, the best technique, and everybody's going to hate me here in a minute, for an aggressive dog is when I grab them by the neck or by the leash and I flip them over on their back and you knock the wind out of them. Because they grasp for air, and if you've ever had the wind knocked out of you, it's a big stun, and you lose all concept of anything, and you're only concentrating on getting air back into your lungs. And when you get an aggressive dog and flip him on his back and knock the wind out of him, slam on the ground, when he comes up, he's stunned, and he is not thinking about attacking. He's thinking about getting oxygen. Now, once he gets oxygen, the fight may be back on, but it usually gives a pause. So Cesar kind of dominates him, goes in.
See that coming.
Cesar says, I didn't see that coming. No shit. I saw it coming. I'm not a trainer, and I saw it coming. Rick, that's easy to say you saw it because I'm just not walking in. I mean, this dog look, I'm okay with this guy's moxie and his not fear of a dog, but, you know, sometimes there's a fine line between fear and ignorance or whatever, and I'm not saying the guy's ignorant, but I'm just not going to do what he's doing. I'm not going to risk him biting. The dog's does anybody think this dog's predictable? Does anybody think that this dog has learned and will never bite him again and is somehow trained? If you do, then you don't get it. So this was, I mean, he ends, he gets some water, he stands there, I think, for 3 minutes. Again, good, bad, and different. Hey, I'm giving my opinion. You can take it or leave it. The dog bit him. I mean, that's going to happen when you're handling dogs and you're working with dogs, especially if you go out and work with aggressive dogs. I mean, they're going to bite you. You're going to get bit. That's a risk you have to accept when you're going out working with aggressive dogs. So anyway, that's I think this is called Showdown with Holly and Dog Whisper. And I'm using Unfair Use Act. I'm not trying to claim copyright or anything, but I'm just giving my opinion for critique and evaluation on what I see and giving people different ideas. So the problem with people coming to this and looking at a video like this is they're like, you know what? I don't want to pay some guy to come do this. I'll just watch him and then I'll go do it. You know what? You can't stand on the shoulders of experience and somehow claim experience just because of what other people tell you or what you've seen or what, you know, you ask someone else and they go, oh, no, here's the answer. And you believe them, so you pass on that answer. You know, there's going to be people out there saying, hey, I watched Cesar, and when a dog bit him, man, he just exposed his nuts to him and kind of went in there and said, go ahead and bite me if you want to, and it worked. That's not what I see here. But, hey, I'm at 30 minutes. Hopefully you got some out of it, and we'll end that there.